You don't expect your marriage to fall apart over something as simple as condensation. But that's exactly how it started. A smudge. A handprint. A quiet moment in the bathroom after a hot shower. It was a Tuesday morning, early, a little before 6. I had woken up before my alarm, groggy, and stumbled into the bathroom to wash my face and start the day. Laura had already showered. She was always up first, getting ready for early client meetings she said were essential. The mirror was still fogged up from the steam, and that's when I saw it, a pair of handprints. Faint, blurred, but unmistakably there. They were high on the mirror, not near the bottom where you'd normally wipe steam away. Not where your hands naturally rest while brushing teeth. No. These were spaced apart, spread like someone had pressed them hard against the glass, from behind. I stood there frozen, the sound of the faucet running, my eyes locked on those two ghostly impressions. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she'd leaned in to check her makeup. Maybe she was stretching. But it didn't make sense. They didn't make sense. They weren't casual or accidental. They were planted there like a fingerprint on a crime scene. My stomach twisted, but I said nothing. Not that day. I watched her move through the kitchen, makeup flawless, hair still damp from the shower, humming softly to herself like everything was fine. That night, she came home late. Traffic, she said, dropping her heels by the door, slipping into a hoodie like it could undo whatever perfume she was still wearing. I nodded and asked how the client meeting went. Fine, she answered, too quickly. I stared at her for a long time, my mind still wrapped around those prints. She didn't notice. She was scrolling through her phone, laughing at something she didn't show me. I went to bed before her. Over the next few days, I started paying attention in a way I never had before. I noted her patterns, when she left, when she returned, how long her appointments lasted. She'd always been independent, always had her own schedule, so I'd never questioned it. But now, everything seemed off. She started dressing up more often. Heels during the day. New blouses. Lipstick shades I'd never seen before. She changed her passcode. She stopped leaving her phone on the kitchen counter. She laughed more at things I couldn't hear, and when I asked what was funny, she just said, "Oh, nothing." I started following her. I know how that sounds, but when your heart's already been yanked halfway out of your chest, you'll do anything to hold onto the truth. I waited until a Saturday. She told me she had an open house downtown. Said it might take a few hours. I waited 10 minutes after she left, then grabbed my keys and followed from a distance. She wasn't heading downtown. She drove west, toward the hills, toward the edge of the city where the houses get bigger and the roads get quieter. I stayed 3 cars behind, hands sweating on the wheel. She pulled into a driveway of a sleek, modern-looking house with a glass front and no for sale sign in sight. A man opened the door. He kissed her before she even stepped inside. I pulled to the curb and sat there, every muscle in my body tense to the point of pain. I watched the door close behind them. I stayed for an hour. Then another. At one point, I saw a shadow move past the window, 2 shapes merging into one. I didn't take photos. I didn't record it. I didn't need to. That was the moment I knew. And knowing broke something in me. I needed help. Not just emotional support. I needed backup. And strangely enough, I found it in the last place I expected, her father. Paul had always liked me. We bonded over football, yard work, and our shared ability to tolerate Laura's mood swings. He was a quiet man, worked in construction his whole life, and didn't talk much unless it mattered. I took him out for coffee one Sunday morning, said I needed to ask him something sensitive. "I think Laura's having an affair," I said. His face barely moved. He just looked at me, nodded once, and said, "I've had my suspicions." That stunned me. He leaned back, rubbed his jaw, and said, "She's not who you think she is, Kevin. Never has been. But you didn't want to see it. None of us did." That conversation changed everything. He offered to help. He had contacts, people who could dig without raising alarms. He said he'd fund it. I didn't argue. Within a week, we had a tracker on her car. A recording device planted in her purse. I hated the invasion, but I hated the lies more. And as the days passed, the truth poured in like floodwater. She wasn't just cheating. She was strategic, smart, ruthless. She used aliases at hotels. She booked business lunches with men under fake names. Sometimes it was the guy from the hills, his name was Eric. Sometimes it was others. I stopped counting. She was living a second life, and I was nothing more than a prop in the background. Paul sent me a file after 10 days. It was thick. Printed photos, receipts, email exchanges. One page had a note scribbled in Paul's handwriting. We end this on your terms. And I knew exactly how I wanted it to end. Once I knew the truth, I stopped sleeping. Not because of the betrayal, I had already grieved that version of my wife, but because of the planning. When you decide to destroy someone, especially someone you once loved, there's a strange kind of adrenaline that replaces grief. I didn't want to scream at her, or humiliate her in public, or tell her family and friends what she'd done. That would have let her paint herself as the victim. I wanted something private, something unforgettable, something that would echo inside her, years from now, whenever she looked in a mirror. Paul and I met again, this time in his garage, over cold beers and the sound of football on a dusty old TV in the background. I laid out the plan. I expected hesitation, maybe a lecture, but he nodded. I warned her once when she was younger, told her the way she plays people was going to catch up to her. He took a long sip. Guess today's that day. Laura had another conference coming up, some real estate thing in Seattle. It was perfect. She'd be out of town for 3 nights. She thought I was flying to Chicago for a mechanical systems expo. I wasn't. I stayed right here. And while she was gone, I turned our house into a museum of her lies. I printed every photo, blew them up. Posters, canvases, even wallpapered the hallway with side-by-sides. Her and me on one side, her and Eric on the other. Her at dinner with clients versus her bent-over hotel sheets. Love notes she'd sent me paired with identical ones she sent to someone else. I even installed a projector in the living room to play silent loops of her entering hotels, kissing men outside bars, lying with her face lit by candlelight that wasn't ours. When she walked in that Sunday night, suitcase in hand, humming, everything stopped. I was standing in the center of the room, silent. The moment her eyes registered the walls, she froze. Her jaw opened, but no words came out. Then she saw the projection, her own face, over and over, on the wall behind me. She dropped the suitcase. "Kevin," she whispered. I didn't move. "This is the last time you walk into this house." She looked around, started shaking. "I can explain." "No, you can't," I said. "You don't get to explain. You only get to experience this." She stepped forward, reaching for me like that could undo the damage. "Please, this isn't what it looks like." I laughed once, cold and sharp. "It's exactly what it looks like. That's why it hurts." She tried another tactic. Anger. "You had no right going through my things." I tilted my head. "You had no right to turn me into a backup while you were sleeping halfway across town." The fight was short. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't let her cry or manipulate. I handed her a single envelope, documents Paul helped me prepare. It wasn't a divorce filing. Not yet. It was a property transfer. I was selling the house. My name was the only one on the title. She had 6 weeks to move out. She didn't even argue. Not really. She just looked at the papers, then at the photos, and something behind her eyes collapsed. Not guilt. Not sorrow. Just realization that everything she thought she could control had slipped through her fingers. Over the next month, she unraveled. She tried to call Eric. He ghosted her. Paul told me later that he'd paid the man a quiet visit. "I didn't threaten him," he said. "I just let him know what kind of woman she really was. Told him she cheated on you with 3 others while telling him he was special." Apparently, Eric packed up and moved back to Arizona. Laura never heard from him again.